Hello, I'm Pastor Shafer, Senior Pastor here at Mount Olive Lutheran Church in Santa Monica, California, and this is Hope Matters. Each week we talk to an interesting person from around the country and even around the world about the theme of hope, because we believe that hope matters. Our guest this week is Amanda Raquel, who is a noted recording artist, a voice coach, and a whole bunch of other things I'm going to ask her to tell us about. So Amanda's coming to you from Chicago. And of course, since I lived in Chicago for 15 years, we know a lot of the same places. But welcome, Amanda. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you. It's so wonderful to be here. How are you surviving without our pizza?
Yeah, I know, but I am surviving without your winters. What can I say?
It was a worthy trade-off. Good point.
All right. So Amanda, you're a singer and recording artist, but you told me before that one of the things you're focusing on, especially during the pandemic, is being a life coach and a voice coach. So tell me about that work, please.
Absolutely. It's funny because this is one of the areas of my life that was not my idea. I transitioned from a brokerage firm that I owned downtown in Chicago in commodities. And so we dealt with wealth management portfolios that kind of honed in on the futures market. And that was going to be my ticket. I've been tested and we got property and I had a Stanford lawyer by my side. He's a great friend of my client. And that was how I was going to seal the deal for my life. Specifically because I had taken the initiative to deal with my fear of poverty. It was like, I will never be poor again. We had just gone through some rough times growing up. And so God was working me out of that idol. And during the crash of 2008 was telling me to transition into music. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I am not about being a poor, starving artist at all. And over that time, I met the love of my life, and after you always do, we start off broke. Why do you have to always start off broke when you're married?
The way it works, I'm afraid.
He's in college getting his degree at Moody, and I'm sitting here like, this is not how I planned this life to be. I should be very, very rich right now. And then baby started coming. And I was talking to her like, look, I'm a businesswoman. I'm working through my issues with feminism. It's seeped through no matter what. I was living in this country and I just need a little something on the side. I'm used to being a business owner. And so God said, go into music, which led to songwriting, which long story short led to voice coaching. And I have not been happier since. I never would have thought that God would be right. Who knew that he knew what he was talking about? And so now, it started off with people just coming to me because I was always singing music on the side secretly because I loved it, in churches and in jazz clubs and just all over. Like I said, for just a number of artists I was writing music for and just doing it because I loved it, singing background for celebrity artists, et cetera, et cetera. But it was never something I was going to commit my life to. And so in that process of just being out there, people were coming to me saying, hey, can you coach me? I never to this day have marketed one person. We are just starting to let people know on the web who I am because people have always just been coming. God was literally sending people. And so they were always either Christians or spiritual or people who kind of knew God but didn't know where they wanted to go in that direction, but they wanted to make art. And so it became very much ministerial, but it also became just fun. I cannot tell you there's not one session where someone's not crying on the couch. No matter what, when you come to me, I get you free, I get you fearless. I somehow, because it's such a big deal, courage and freedom is such a big deal for me, I just infuse that into my artists, which means you got to heal from your past and you got to deal with the things that have frightened you. Like I had to deal with things that frightened me in my past. And so it's become just a wonderful way of displaying the love of Christ, but also showing people, he had an idea for your life that you might not agree with or even see coming. But trust me, if you follow it, he'll be right. And I can only say that because that's happened for me.
Wonderful.
So that's what I do.
So you also have a debut album, though, called Fallen, right?
Oh my gosh, you're going to laugh at me, but I think you'll understand how tricky this is. So God's saying, put my music out that he's sending to me while I'm trying to be depressed. I'm very much I'm type A, very committed. We talked about that. I get frustrated when things don't go right. And so I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to put this music out, like you said. And every time I launch an album, I get pregnant, which means I can't tour, I can't promote. And so the last album, which was Fallen, so it's not exactly debut anymore. That last album happened while I was, okay, I'm going to go for it again, Lord. I get in the studio, we record the album, and then the whole time I'm pregnant and I realize it. And then once it's time to promote the album, we're like, you're 6 months pregnant. Where are you gonna, what tour are you gonna put together here, honey? And so I did one little album release. The city of Chicago sponsored it. It was really gorgeous. And I did it 7 months pregnant. Went and had the baby, sat down and tried to figure out, well, what are we gonna do next? Now we have, some kids, and how are we gonna make this life work? So yes, that album Fallen came, and this will be interesting, because a friend of ours was wrestling with homosexuality, who also attended the same school as us. And the person had contracted HIV. And they had fallen from God's grace. Like, there's no way in the world that God's gonna love me or see me or help me or heal me or anything. He doesn't want anything to do with me because of this scenario that I've placed myself in. And so us walking, just being there with this person is what created the album Fallen, because I could identify with so many of my own issues and sins where I'm like, no, now I'm too far from God. Now he won't want to be involved with my life. And it touched such a chord in my life that's what birthed that album.
Wonderful. So people could find the album on Amazon, correct?
You're the best. Yeah, on iTunes, Amazon. You can go to amandais.com, where you can learn all about me at amandais. That's amandais.com. But yeah, it's on all the platforms. And I'm excited because probably towards the end of this year and at the beginning of this year, I will finally start promoting the album I never got to promote. We're going to do a whole online concert. It's going to be great. I can finally
Wonderful.
live my dreams and be a star.
And if people are interested in contacting you about doing voice coaching, how would they get a hold of you?
The same thing, amandais.com. And then on all of the social media platforms, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, I'm at Amanda Music. That's MUXIC. Amanda Music, MUXIC. And you'll see me everywhere. I'm very rarely on Twitter, so don't even go there. But I have an account. But if you want to catch me, I want to talk to you, then come on Facebook or Instagram.
Wonderful. So Amanda, the theme of our program is hope, and you've certainly alluded to this already, but where do you find hope in your life?
For the longest, I found hope in myself. That's going to be just the truth of it. I am extremely intelligent. I usually win when I put my mind to something. And then it's an interesting story. I was on the East Coast because at first I put my hope in the church. And this is not Christ or God, this is just the church. And, I had a very legalistic background kind of growing up in the church. And quite frankly, I didn't find Christians to be that happy. And I was young looking at them like, you guys are overweight. No one seems to be married and happy. No one seems to have kids who are like at peace and honoring. They always want what the world wants. No one's having sex. I was talking to married couples, and there was just so much bitter and tension. There was a lot of control happening in the church, and I couldn't figure it out at a young age. What is going on here? So I left and started a couple of companies. And on the East Coast, I was doing events for, celebrity artists like Tank and Bilal. And then I was doing New York Fashion Week, and I was around all the shiny people who were just as dull inside. And I was like, wait a minute, this is what I was working for, to be around the impressive, celebrities. And these people are, high, and they're crying because whoever they had sex with the night before is not claiming them the next day. And they feel like their manager is cheating them, and they were getting taken advantage of, And I was like, wait a minute, I want to be you guys, and you don't know what you're doing either. So I stopped putting hope in myself because I had worked so hard to be there, and started asking some hard questions like, okay, who are you? Because apparently the God that they're talking about is not translating. They don't have peace. They don't have joy. No one laughs, Everyone's addicted to something, whether it's food or complaining or gossiping. It was just weird. And so I said, how do I find happiness? How do I find joy, Lord? And whoever you are, just show me who you are. And he did. He came to me in the way that he'll come to you specifically, the way you need. And then he told me to come back to Chicago, which is the one place I vowed I didn't want to ever come back to. This is my home state. And so I came back and everything fell apart. My businesses, all my charm. I could not work my way into a business deal. I could not, it was like, what? I said, I want to be happy, Lord. What are you doing? And one thing after another, I couldn't find a job to nanny. Okay, my husband and I think we were married at this time. And he was like, what is going on? I'm like Jonah in the boat. Like, what is happening? But bit by bit, he was literally stripping me of all the idols that I thought I needed. I needed security from, culture, security from family and church. I needed to be accepted in certain areas. I needed to be seen as impressive. I felt that, if I wasn't validated for being someone who was significant or at least rich, then I didn't have value. And there were so many things that he was like breaking me down. I'm going to make you happy, honey. Trust me. And then we lost our child. We lost our middle child. And I was nearly an atheist. I was like, I'm done. Like, we're done. My husband's pastoring at this time. He's discombobulated. It's just so much happening in the beginning of our honeymoon phase that we were both out of it. And I definitely had gone into a depression. And Pressure's Off by Larry Crabb, who I just absolutely adore. I just got to spend a whole week or so with him and his wife recently in Colorado. Saved my life. Because I had so much pressure on who I had to be and so much pressure on who God had to be for me to worship him. And of course, that means he has to be a genie. He has to do what I need him to do in order for him to prove that he's good and in order for me to give him my allegiance. So all of that just got broken down. And I slowly started to just wanted to be with God for who he was. It was the darkest, scariest season because there was no money and there was no support that I needed. And there was no, my womb was now barren. And even my husband, we couldn't reach each other like we needed to because we were both hurting so bad. We're just silently suffering, that kind of space. You know how marriages can go in those seasons. And God began to talk and I could finally hear him. Isn't that crazy? He was like, now that I have your undivided attention. And so I transitioned, what was that, 4 or 5 years ago, from putting my hope in religion, in myself, in family, in support structures, in networking, in talent, in skills, to putting my hope in Christ. And it was at a good time because now that everything is falling apart with this pandemic and Corona and blah, 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 and people are, obviously we have our racial issues that have always been there, but they're now being unearthed and uncovered, and there's tension everywhere, and there's anger and hatred, and there's poverty, which makes everything worse. I'm just fine. I'm like, this is not God's first famine. This is not God. I finally get who he is. He's a boss. He's sovereign. He's running all of this. And he's talking and I can hear him. That's what's exciting. He's talking in the middle of all of this and in the drought and in the fear and all that. And I can hear exactly what he's telling us to do. My husband can hear where he wants us to go. It's just a phenomenal, it's literally like being unplugged from the matrix. And now you can hear the creator as opposed to being so consumed with the creation itself, right? You including yourself. And so my hope is in Christ. Obviously we pray that things turn around. We don't know what's going to happen. And now we're more aware that you don't know. You never knew. I just want to tell you all that. You never knew. You've always been unclear on what the next move was, just so you know. But there is such an illusion that you do know, and you're so certain in your uncertainty until all the stuff starts falling apart. And then you're like, okay, wait a minute, I'm not controlling my life. God's like, no, you have responsibilities, but you don't have control. So do the things you're responsible for. But everything else that you can't, just do your lane and then go sit down and go to bed. Be anxious for nothing, go take a nap. That's it. Because there's nothing else you can do beyond that. And so us trying to get white people to see us was done because we've been in a lot of multicultural spaces. You have to just want to see us and we want to see you, and that's it. Us, my husband and I, tensions there. Me, parenting changed, friendships changed. God began to just really wash my mind of so many structures and belief systems that had been there for so long, because now my hope was in him. And I was like, well, I ain't got nothing to put my hope in, no way. So let's go ahead and he's like, by hook or crook, I'll take it.
All right.
Yes, I will take it.
All right. Well, that's great. Well, yeah, what can I say? I mean, I think that is the path, of course, having our hope in God, having our hope in Jesus, and then trying not to worry so much. Right. And
it's so funny. It's so true that you say that, because when I recognize that when he makes these statements, be anxious for nothing, etc., he's like, this is not a request. And it's not a strong suggestion. It's a commandment. It's for your good, Amanda. And so all the things that make you anxious, figure it out. I literally went through my life and combed through what made me anxious about my marriage. I need him to make more money so that I can be safe in the future. Okay, I gotta work on that. Why do I need my husband to be my source? I had to comb through how busy and fast I was. I was always rushing to the next space. Like I'm scheduling my own life, but I'm scheduling it with small time margins. That made me anxious, right? I had to work through, I don't sleep, I have an issue, I have my insomnia or insomnia was happening. I was like, what is going on? And I had to work through all the things that kept me up, the thoughts that would go through my mind that keep me up at night. Okay, why do I think that? Why do I believe that? What's true? So that's years and years when I started having children and you know, where are we gonna school them? I have Black boys here in Chicago and we're in the urban city. The school systems ain't fair no matter how people feel about it. And so what are we gonna do with our children? I had to work through that when we had no insurance and we were having babies. I had a baby with first one with no insurance and that was a $30,000 bill. I said, Lord, this is your baby, this is your bill. He said, remember that. Do you know, a call came from the hospital. They said, we wanna cover your bill. It's a program we have. Would you be okay with that? I'm like, God is always moving. But he only moves in this unrelentless, like, I don't have to understand it and I don't have to even agree with it. But apparently you've been doing this for a long time. You'll figure it out. I remember saying things like, we need this and you know it's a need, Lord. And you said, this is what you said in your word. This is what you said. I mean, I'm learning, I'm now reading the Bible for myself. Not I'm reading it because I went to a conference. Not I'm reading it because you know, it's a thing to do and you don't want to get, you know, a lightning strike from heaven. So you do a little devotion in the morning and now you've checked off. God's like, you don't know me. Now I'm speaking back to him. Look, you said I'll never beg for bread. I've never seen the righteous forsaken. We don't have food. Your turn. We've done the best we could do. We got all the degrees. We've interviewed. We put our resume out. Your turn. And he would make it happen over and over. Everything in my house, every piece of decoration came without money. I was like, Lord, this is what I like. We want to teach our kids with the globe. It costs $250. Where's that globe at? I want that in my life. I think it's a great idea for the kids to learn now that we're homeschooling them. Do you know the globe showed up? I mean, I'm trying to show you from Ross to Friends to whatever. If no small or big request, if it lines up with your heart, lines up with God, he will honor it. And if he doesn't get it to you, he'll remove it from your heart from even wanting it. He said, you shouldn't want that. And so that anxiety, like, oh man, I shouldn't want to be like Beyonce or the Kardashians. Let me turn it off. I shouldn't want to compare myself to people on social media. He'll change my heart. That was making me anxious. He's like, get off of so many things that you feel the anxiety coming up. You'll feel with you're around certain family members. You need to create some boundaries. Something about them until you grow past whatever they do that affects you negatively. Either avoid it or remove it, create boundaries and say, okay, God, how can I love them? Or maybe they were a real enemy. How can I love them as my enemy, but not put myself in positions that compromise my heart? All of this is going to help you be anxious for nothing. And it's very possible. People are always asking me, how are you doing that? I'm like, well, honey, that took time. It took years of deciding, is what I'm saying true? Or is what God is saying true? Do I even know what God is saying? Have I even researched it? Do I care to know? Or do I want to sit and be right so I can worry? Because the one payoff you get about worrying is you get to be right. I knew something was going to happen. Oh, you get to be right. I knew something bad was, I knew it was. So you don't want to let that go. I like being right. And I remember God talking to me like, Amanda, can you give me the right to be right? You are correct here. She wasn't right. That wasn't unfair. But can you let that go? Can you let me have that vengeance? Because that's giving you anxiety. So there's so many areas, refusing to rush, refusing to wait for somebody to get you, like all that stuff. You're like, oh, what do I do now? It's like, go to bed, have peace, create something, enjoy your marriage, eat food and not be addicted to it. Watch it. You can do a whole lot of stuff and have a great life. We just got to transform you and renew your mind a little bit. And be ye not conformed to this world. And I promise you, I have a whole destiny and plan for you. But you, who you are right now, this anxious person you are right now, it doesn't fit into that life. And so, yeah, it's worth it. It's worth the work.
All right. Okay, Amanda, thank you for this time together, talking about hope and
I love you because
take control of our lives. And we're so grateful that you spent some time with us today on Hope Matters. If you want to know more about Amanda Raquel's work, as she said, Amanda Music, Muxic, and you will find her.
On Facebook or Instagram. I want to thank you. You guys, you all need a backstory to Pastor Eric. So we're supposed to be Zooming just so you all can know the heart of this wonderful man. First of all, he's a producer of Davy and Goliath. He raised me on that cartoon. That cartoon raised me. But we could not get connected for a variety of reasons. And then the tech was crazy once we finally got close. And the type of person I am, I'm usually like, I would have thrown my hands up and been completely annoyed. And luckily the Lord has worked me out of that slowly. But when we finally got connected, I was so expecting him to give me a little bit of silent shame, a little bit of side eye, like, you're late. He was so actual pastor. He didn't wear the cloak and bathe. So thank you, Pastor Eric, for having me.
No, you blessed us by being with us today. I guess we should wrap this up. All right. This is Hope Matters. Our guest today was Amanda Raquel, a vocalist, a voice coach, a recording artist, and a life coach. And Amanda, we're so glad you could be with us. This is Hope Matters, a production of Mount Olive Lutheran Church. We believe that hope matters because we believe we have a God of hope. Thank you for being with us today.